it is recorded how no one has used evidences and that nature of truth that we are capable of using with free speech because of how we don't have free speech and because of the roles of with that with methods of organized crime that even the roles with it, even countries as archetypal criminal enterprises, left criminally and left recorded as actually recorded as collusions with left entrenched things that the breaching method effectively left to measure and maintain. If those criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments the only means to cause positive value nature progressions action natures simultaneously while they tactically denatured the suburbs before our founding parents were even born. They had slavery entrenched north and south, exactly other than how our experts on everything, with the most knowledge of everything, know how they tell it. And as the ones pretending with passions and emotions to care for the religious books and for those locations. Offensively, they need to pretend they believe things about what a sinning or sinners is about because of roles with all identity ground locations with an identity theft, fraud, slander method that paints fake exceptions because of how nature. You can't invent how it is. For example, the identity that really was what really came true, what really was true before the order of the finite now. See, what's recorded are there a whole bunch of different, well, especially concentrated it is where there are doctors of psychology. I'm not a doctor, but we need to delineate and have the ability to delineate their illusions from their criminally foreign influence, fact human natures. In fact, treatments, as already recorded, as actually recorded. These are roles fabricating audio and video transcripts, and then even increasingly needing to act at locations to let other people take pictures so they can pretend people know others when they have to say later in time they don't know them, when they're the complete strangers and where there are people who only made fake exceptions to know where they can't be honest about how they set up the trap to lie also about the motivations about how where their timing where people of each age are going to be walking where they're going to be stagnant living you know forced to be or not at all locations. This is a method that was entrenched here before our founding parents were born, before their founding parents were born. The suburbs were designed, therefore, for a torture method that had already been sustained. And we know it was still being sustained against Native Americans, and who are our founders too. And if they didn't still have that ongoing resistance for nature itself as their own identity, see, but they forgot that because they were stolen from them. They had no choice. That's a sick, distinctly nature of method of slavery that was sustained against our founders too. That they wanted us to address the ones that were Native American and the ones who had to counter extort the other founders. Here, because we have not reached the clear. Not one modern country has even grouped the colonies were used. And that's manifest here. It measures and maintains sickly distinctly from our own. It's nothing against Spain. They were enslaved to be part of slavery. And what is white? And then so they just make people fake sides. Any voice is only allowed to speak if it's not going to be the one speaking for why we are individual grouped in species body of volume slash s. And if you're honest, we're not leaving out the slave sequence, you'll agree. Or there'll be proofs in your logic that you're not being honest. What is true always, and significance of the value of it. For example, it's being denied by the only voices we're allowed to hear through mass media. These are serious things. So what do? They have to have a theater and they take on what serious is, then pretend other. Oh, but our motivations are because we're a network. We need to have this. We need to have this impression. We won't have the viewers. It's our business. It's our income. They're attaching people to fake words. They don't. In other words, and where and how. For example, this is a first certain type of victim slash hyper victim predator that people A through Z are. If you refer to them as that, they're going to self value, criminally forward influence, and tactically simultaneously delusions raw. Tactically delusions raw. Logic that is only capable of having been having stood and also used as values to justify convictions, rightful and wrongful, and totally wrong, against complete innocence, increasingly as collusions, where even overt criminal enterprises and private ones, as original and as state, and that insidiousness of the voices and the styles of logic and the natures of people A through Z relative to the breaching methods laws, per what everyone could say or not, and pretend about regarding criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments, negative treatments, and collusion. Whole bunch of strangers in collusion. All exception, nature, and demonstration of the same thing. How they get away with it, little fact treatment, predicate acts methods, showing where they make time treatment simultaneously too fast, too slow. Of course, they don't have their clogged at courts, of course. They have them sickly distinctly from the overt criminal enterprises and the private ones. Uses of the same criminally foreign influence, fact, treatment, nature, qualities, aspect, in nature. Tactical ulterior from that one that is hyper native. That is to the translation of the particular identity theft slash slander slash fraud method, sickly non-distinctly against everyone. But to discern that, we have to discern honestly how sickly distinctly. First, sustained against Native Americans. First, the effects of that were effectively propagated, self-cultivated, blamed on other things, others, or ourselves. Increasingly, while the real means, in other words, it's a truth that white men hurt Native Americans, but it's simultaneously a truth they are our founders too, because our founders who had to counter extort the other founders did not have free speech because everyone was being measured. Not collusion with the assignments of the identities. It assigned tactical ulterior from our difference where it actually is. And just for even to have even effectively to keep the sides entertained. I'm Italian, so effectively the intelligence community where they collude with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, insidiousness of people A through Z not wanting to, but increasing have-tos and self-valuing it, where they are knaves, where there is differential criminal foreign influences. The law cannot pick a side as a criminal or not because where and how, for example, immunities from prosecutions and the right to lie, to use a phrase of James Comey, or a man reportedly named James Comey, who's involved with Congress, also recorded hiding sequence shifts, hiding offensively preemptive to hide what already came, actively and increasingly, where they are used remotely relative to the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and to how to respond to those increasingly hyper additional to this. And so this also evidential is where how other is being communicated for our founders and how that is being gotten away with. has been gotten away with by having the people who know the most about subjects exploiting also roles without realizing, but to an extent, self value with the obfuscation of the identity the scientists share at the locations where they are manifest and where their applications are. And this all increasingly as systems individually grouped as this individual system where modern uses of modern humanities locations names is used. It is sick, fake, where they use words like value and it is tactical economies. It is measured and maintained by a breaching method sickly distinctly from our own, where they left out and leave out exceptions, the exception nature, because they are invested to roles painting fake and valuing haven't been painted. Exception nature to pretend is how nature uses exception because he uses two additional ways. So we could figure out, in other words, from what we know now, what really was the truth. And the value of it is only increasing. The truth before the forward or the finite now, smallest finite detail of the republic for which we stand. Its identity of relationship to itself, and only increasing value of that, where value is nature / nature is value. In the campus, it is not its identity, while as its identity to make sure it's its identity's hyper identity relationship to itself that's positive, not criminal insidiousness nature of positive. It takes a method of a scientific method of contemplation that more probably is where the word prayer came from, where you contemplate with what you know simultaneously is true always, not denying the slight sequence, not valuing the slight sequence shift or finite detail, deny or simultaneous. See, in other words, there are all kinds of things that we know were simultaneously true. The second we hear a phrase, Jim Crow laws, there are a whole bunch of finite truths we know are true. We know manifest still was that interbranch as collusions, differentially criminally foreign influence, not wanting to be, but slave torture method, conversion, propagation, further propagation, and further self cultivation roles, needs, and natures as styles of logic that's actually syntactically manifest. I tell best boxings. I teach us things. So they pretend passions and emotions regarding racial things, also relevant to where and to how the interbranch intelligence community knows consciously. See, we cannot leave out their roles differentially, criminally foreign influence, and preventing us offensively from treating them properly as victims / hyper victims that were used remotely. Forgiveness is not to give up to that, but not to leave out the other juxtaposed, other than apparent motivations, natures, needs, interests manifest with the syntax of the law and of its locations, voices, needs, natures, rolls also with wire crimes and overt criminal enterprises, private ones that have nothing to do with them and that no one likes, even themselves, because of the relativity of this method that has uses of people of the each age, the people that grow up around us, which makes knows we're going to say that, and they have all painted fake ties, fake natures of ties to ourselves on the campuses, sickly distinctly from how off campuses to keep out sickly, non-distinctly from being discerned. And this is relevant where not one has learned, and they have already used that remotely. But this is where and how they already had where this is manifest being and having been exploited is not just at all crime scenes, but also interbranch locations with all civil treatments and instances leading up to that. They're putting little illusions in there with all criminal treatments. They're putting little illusions, collusions in there, even with their worst patients and criminals, even if made up. on and off their campuses too. Whoa. So before I ever lived there, for years, sustained, there were men and women of the intelligence community that had roles with abuses of little kids off the campus, but near Central Connecticut State University. It's weird how the other countries in our countries they torture each other to say nothing. We're fluent through them. They'll hurt and worse anyone who uses short words properly. They'll attach that person to fake words, fake ties to other people, fake natures of ties to other people, and the imposition of collusions with people with those illusions in the databases, also where and how manifest they influence people at locations and online to pretend passions and emotions where they speak about they pretend that they're free speech. They speak free. They're leaving out details and their roles that where and how used remotely, criminally foreign influenced our time treatments at interbranch locations and all the other ones used simultaneously too fast, too slow to get over on what is actually proper, always justice and how to discern it. It is not. It is by valuing what is really came, the extent to what the extent we know is really true always about the finite before the order of now. We know this was an ancient republic. It had already been criminally foreign influenced, tactically re-engineered through its own. We know our founders did damage control and to this, but they did not fix it. And they were still in that phase where everyone was measured and maintained individually grouped and together. Who's a part of the group or who's the individual that didn't pretend that psychopath logic and laws that they couldn't fathom where and how they were collusion. Excuse me. Also with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. Also with all the other countries, the colonies, also part of that system that had sickly distinctly north and south, the suburbs already designed before our founders' parents were even our parents, their parents were even born. They're approved even before their parents were even born. And we have to understand how they had to counter extort to other founders, but we have this prevented offensively by people that need to keep it effectively employed and applied. That blamed on other things, others ourselves. That breaching method, uses of it too. Blame they consciously maintained it, blamed on other things, others ourselves, and made reliant upon that a whole bunch of other distinct identities of criminal insidious nature, times relevant to nature's increasing demonstrations of this and means to demonstrate it. And that effectively employed as means to show our intelligence community, interbranch, individually grouped in together, and the exception nature tied to them. They have been needing to hide life progressions with each other, even preemptively. Shown needs to and means to get away with it by filming, by standing and acting while others to partake with offensive federal evidences crimes, roles within identity theft slash fraud slash slander method, even against no matter how powerful a leader could get. And this is also where differential criminal foreign influences and motivations are vertical and horizontally relevant because they already were left out and self-valued, having been left out by the logic of everyone, which is one of the reasons how they to relevant to answer the questions how they got away with leaving how we have black pupils and whites of eyes, and exception nature demonstrated. But that has been left out of the racially um, assigned roles with where and how the branches of government with the overt criminal enterprises and private ones, intercampuses, all database relationships. This has to do with where and how the motivations need to pretend to have legitimacy, where they have readings of statutes that are criminally foreign influence while they pretend other. That's part, in other words, and that's exploited not just at those former locations, not just the other ones tied to it, where everyone was back to live, next to where everyone, and that's where everyone's still a victim slash hyper victim, but victim predator, hyper predator, blaming other things, others, ourselves, even when correctly, exactly wrongly, exactly the way, in collusion at those locations. How could that be? Look what they put. Look what they put. Then we have to get jealous when people are going when they do the little they have cool sayings and things like that. Latino. Then they go, oh, they make it like black, white. That's a game. Same thing with the Italian. Same thing with people from Ireland, and Italian from here. They're a certain type of nature of identity theft fraud that either needs to bond with you that way, where everyone's a victim of, not realizing, or but where everyone hears what everyone hears. These countries have roles with natures of agreements and of natures of logic that cannot afford to defend themselves and to have the quality of fact even necessary, where and how actually the answers proper and better than correct are manifest at all locations everywhere the species body is standing, and increasingly it is dangerous to go out of the space for increase while it's for the same reason, generating more reasons that is increasingly needed for safety to go to space, not by accident. This has self-valued roles with a method of obfuscation and use of the obfuscation of the identity of the simultaneous slash hyper simultaneous. That is itself how we are grouped volume, distinctly from how we are the species volume, and individual, also per how it communicates with us. But we offensively have people say, oh, you're crazy. These are people involved with identity ground locations that need to deal with physical health and trauma and hospitals. There's a reason we all love healthcare since we're the youngest age. We love doctors, even if we're not sick. And sooner or later, we're all going to need doctors and be sick. So, too long, the breaching method knew this and had natures of medicine and natures of doctors and natures of lawyers and of police forms and of courts that can't defend themselves in other courts at the same time, can't defend their identity of roles and identity of relationship to and with the from and as and for the state judicial branch offices and all the conjunctions to it and the conjunctions to that, like Weathersfield Pizza and roles with the wire crimes involved with that, and relative identity theft, fraud, slanders instances, also in the form of federal evidences crimes, child abuses, roles, identity theft, fraud, slanders, consciously for that, as criminally foreign influence ones with people from other countries, also all along roads and routes, with the names forging and switching. So there are men and women associated with Taekwondo places and their students. They have roles with abuses with a whole bunch of other countries and with people from Korea, involved with medical communities and their extended family members. And it's fact cheaping nature oriented predicate acts and methods that also have people's own family members fight sickly. And they bring up those instances, leaving out roles that the courts had and that the police forums, plural, had and have, and with their locations. They have whole predicate acts methods recorded they cannot defend and afford discern what is actually recorded, which are criminally foreign influence readings of statutes since founding, certain nature of victim predator that people A through Z are regarding the significance and the validity of such. The intelligence community has roles to an extent consciously, preemptively, actively now, and increasingly needing to value methods stacking illusions into databases and acting motivations and natures tied to that, where and how they know what is actually communicated is other than what is pretended communicated by the people pretending passions and emotions that they're about free speech, that they say things. They have reality TV contracts, also roles with crime methods with lawyers where it's relevant, where we have predators who are doctors, but they've been fabricating conversations on off formal locations and ties, fake natures of ties, and then the methods they do to hide this then and since. These are also people with WFSB and with WTNH and Fox Connecticut News that involved with torture methods before the World Trade Center attack and with drugs and medicines crimes and sexual crime rules and wire crime acts methods and names forging and switching rules and preventing people a response from them attaching us to fake conversations with a principal child offenders campus involved then now that they forced with such lies, fake conversations with me. Then they pretend not to understand. WFSB, you guys pretend this is personal too. All exception nature also show record, confess, demonstrate, confirm roles with people that were years before planting fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, and that weren't at all on campuses. They're attaching me and others to fake ties and natures of ties on campuses that were never, I never saw them on campus as the people involved with this. And they make fake exceptions. Two times I had cooking classes at Weathersfield High School involved with men and women involved with predicate acts with kids, not the teacher. They made all the teachers roles. In other words, she never did anything wrong. They probably put her in fake language, like you don't know what's in the databases. In other words, but the students in that class and their family members from off their homes, but then for other additional reasons, on off their homes, on off their classrooms. I never had classes in, besides that. They had already been involved with sequence shifts. People that were in communications with them already were relevant as recorded criminally forward influenced remote uses of investigations of investigators and of the perception of all identities of sophistication. For example, we're staying with the revelations that come from where and how the course of whites of eyes, black pupils being and having been abridged, that which is hyper clear, not clear as criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatment when uses of them. These are revelations. Other has been communicated for our founders. Other and others got and that has gotten away with per how they pretend passions and emotions while uses of now the knowledge of facts to get over on proper uses of facts by that everyone could do. In other words, they're lying to their faces, sickly distinctly, at every identity, the ground, location, charged with making scientific and human treatments of reality, of every instance, specifically regarding the significance of what really came before that. So I don't know Ray Reynolds to have it personal. I never tried to contact him in my life, for example. And this is brought up by the relevance of the of people. A whole bunch of people at Central Connecticut State University. I don't even know what this. There's a policeman named Poison, who's also a professor at Central Connecticut State University, involved with co-defendants, a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, like a Thaddeus Grabowski, a John LeConte, um, and Dominic Lepriata and his neighbors, also involved with wire crimes and people planting evidences and pretending passions and emotions behind my back with their teachers too. Involved also with foreign and domestic, have a whole bunch of different countries. Military, when not, all the exception nature is exploited consciously because they've been painting fake exceptions and lying about them. There's a Joshua Julian who's one of the ones involved with people on off Trinity College and CCSU, involved with identity thefts and frauds, with people on the child offender registry, on off campuses planting federal crimes, fake conversations with legal cases, with people about you know federal criminals and people associated with them since before they got caught by the people associated with them. Fake conversations with me, a Leahy family has with a whole bunch of people on and off. There's a Leahy family and people with a Spada family, that a Cololo family, excuse me, Spada family, and um, a Della Farah family. I only tried to contact them once because of their confession. They saw me out demonstrations in the past, and with people tied to the through time, they have some kind of roles, and you got you too. Brought up at corners of my buildings of my building at schools I went to. Brought up their roles with Town Line Drive, the shopping center. There are people tied to a Mike Pandoff that know my name. I don't know his name, and they're involved with the prison community and with the intelligence community and the military, foreign and domestic, and how they have a whole bunch of different countries on and off the shopping centers and the malls. Involved also with the names timed on and off corners of streets near me. Involved with fact nature oriented predicate acts, identity theft and fraud, slander instances. This is also people involved with various natures of bad things in body dumping spots and names at the spots next to those involved with and how investigations, investigators, and vetting of perception is recorded self value, criminally foreign influence so many ways, relative to the answers here, to where really manifest are the capabilities of consciousness and of what is smart or wise or who is good at each age. See, we have people pretending to be about good that are quoting what was proven in cases, and they're also mixing that with lying about the outcomes of cases because they've been bringing things before into branch locations to hide roles with uses of everyone, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, insidiousness of people A through Z. And or they attach that person to change words, fake words, and with the people around them using predicate acts methods to little like magic tricks, and then asking people questions about and tied to subjects they brought up criminally, and to make where they could use time simultaneously too fast, too slow, as they did before the World Trade Center attack consciously to torture people and to need the breaching method needs it to pretend because of their motivations for a lot of money they make with drugs, with medicines crimes and methods with that. But way worse than that seems way more subtle and never was addressed because its uses of all locations, its uses of all memory, its uses of all database relationships and relativity since before computers. This is the Republic's campus, breached. Not one has teached. So a whole bunch of people tied to houses and names next to Trinity College have involvements with fact cheating nature oriented predicate acts where they are a certain type of victim slash hyper victim. And for example, and that also has that has timed uses of Mike Tyson. One time when I saw him coming down the hallway when I was coming up, I was asked to fight. It's nothing personal against Mike Tyson. These people, there's a whole bunch of people with the military too, on and off that state prison offices. I think they changed the name of it, and the street next to it, both streets next to it in Hartford, where it touches Weathersfield, and all along where Weathersfield, the borders of Weathersfield and Rocky Hill, the same names have individuals associated with them since before they were adults, involved with more predicate acts than there are streets in our towns against more people than there are streets in our cities, not by accident. These are the people associated with locations that are only places that are allowed to counter things like violence, like criminal insidiousness, especially where and how they have criminal insidiousness natures of positive roles and negative roles, and as collusion as strangers that also had their family members in collusions with such as strangers in the past. Now, this is also where and how this is all filtered ourselves against ourselves, and or they attach you to change words, fake words. They put fake audio and video transcripts into databases and to pretend was what was recorded, by where they have locations that are filmed 24/7. They interbranch in all exceptions nature them. They've been replacing what's actually recorded with fabricated audio and video. These are also people leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context of sense. Also, they use crimes methods against our peoples, our own against our own, their own against their own, by influencing people to pretend others are making conspiracy theories to keep away from the actual acts we're speaking, referring to, and the predicate acts methods. So this is also where and how they have, where they have, either the law is too hard or too slow, and they're leaving out what's simultaneous because they're leaving out what's hyper simultaneous there too. See, what is proper is to discern by their how there are five distinct identities of order that can be used to reveal only an extent of one. Vaccine is fun. Somewhere time treatments have been employed, criminally foreign influence. More and more they have it at interbranch locations and other inclusion at other locations, therefore. You need to hide from what nature is actually showing us. For example, about what caused slavery. A breaching method caused slavery. And it caused that method of slavery that pretends it doesn't realize while using their identity. Like the identities who pretend passions, emotions, pretend their worth, integrity, their honesty regarding how they know the most about American history. American history is about how our founders had to counter extort the other founders because everyone, what they said, was measured and maintained roles with what couldn't entertain itself and simultaneously defend the surface value of could defend any part of the Constitution unabridged, and while it had to pretend other, while it had to value, while it was doing that as styles, while everyone's doing that as styles of logic, you need to value that having been blamed on other things, others themselves. You have to value how that was the outcome slash S maintained. You have to value how left out are recorded, what is actually recorded. All kinds of collusions with the identities at forensics locations, at where they dispose of bodies legally and criminally. Everyone speaking through others is being and having been employed, criminally foreign influence, effectively to keep everyone pretending sense and sensibilities when you guys forced me to use your names, branches of government. Ah, in other words, too. When you guys use words like other words of psychology, like you guys use them with criminal foreign influences, juxtaposed simultaneously the tactical delusions that we need to address, but you don't follow mandated law, and you didn't do that, and you hid that where you have people like with the prisons of kids, even also involved with the names, further involved with the principal child abuser, involved with you also with the treatments of the Sandy Hook issues during that, leading up to it, and since. Now, these are also names involved with the World Trade Center and with the principal child abusers campus. And like there were confessions that brought up the name O'Brien, and Phil Cololo was brought up. Now, these are people intercities through time on and off campuses, also with religious spots effectively used by the psychopath delusions raw predators involved with their patients and criminals criminally before they got caught while they're there and since, because they need to hide life progressions. They need to hide what actually is. They have roles we use people's identity. They have names forging and switching and sharing through time roles with this. Whole bunch of different countries, real sick fakes along the Celestine Highway, involved with the police chief Cintron, people from Puerto Rico, and also involve people with from Germany and Mexico, Mexican Navy, Mexican cafeteria and Navy, people associated with the Scalora family, and with people on and off Central Connecticut State University with this Poison guy, and other officers forging and switching names. There's an officer Hunter also on off Central Connecticut State University, on off Hartford campuses involved with Hartford courts involved with former director of the FBI and co-defendants of his, and judges and prosecutors and families that work for that court involved with West Hartford and New Britain campuses, criminally involved with people from my town were involved with that through time, with other people on the child abuser registry, and conscious uses of roles with juxtaposed natures of organized crime, distinct by the same natures per their logics roles, where they're framing people with they use harassment when first they use they tell people to hold on when they didn't even say anything that could be misunderstood. And then they say they pretend they make confessions and statements and bring in more names and more things before they even hear, and they pretend they hide what they're caught with over the phone at a principal child abuser's campus. So then there have been coaching roles with that and spreading lies that they heard in backgrounds and using truths for lies. For real sick lies, little simple truth. Like I brought in a knife one time, and the girl who told on that was, in other words, it was a knife, and I bought it through the catalog from the right there in the library there. But that has something to do with they have her involved with the news media and other families involved along Ridge Road with Connecticut news media. They have roles with wire crimes with people on off their location, and even little kids involved with this. And people I never tried to contact in my life and never responded to all these confessions they make at once, like a Paul, people on along that street, and there are little girls they abused on that street with judges and with a spotted family and tomorrow and Della Fair family and other boyfriends that I don't even know their names, but they've been fabricating evidences into databases, and they have roles with the Pandolfs and other people that lived near me at the time and through time involved with uses of that location to test me. One time there was one exception, Rick C.M. Faglione. Every time I saw it, the only time I saw him, it has something to do with people on off the state judicial branch offices. That is involved also where recorded discernible. There are predicate acts methods that our branch of the government self-valued roles with leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and sense. Also because of how that is also exploited, where they have to hide that at those locations more and more. It is also increasingly they have to pretend not to realize at other locations, including now preemptively, all along Route 3, all next to parks, intercities. They have crime methods of doing this where it is exploited at other intercities locations. And where and how that could have been countered by phenomena associated with how we could interact interstates. They have exception nature. Self value where and how the police forms interstates are criminally foreign influence tactical delusions wrought that way also simultaneously. So they're going to make treatments, and they've been making treatments regarding things as serious as murders and as serious as that which really is the worst thing behind what they call racism. But that is also part simultaneously to screen it. And we have to understand and discern what's actually recorded. Everyone's identity is applied, assigned values that have nothing to do with this, and that was sustained. Where only so if we try to speak about this, we have to speak about things that have nothing to do with it, but we have to bring up color and race and treatments of it. That's why it's so important not for someone not to pretend passions and emotions against racism because people don't know how to call it anything else because of the method that is recorded consciously maintaining that others communicated for our founders than they needed communicated them for themselves by now, understood about how they had to counter extort the other founders and why, and how all identity ground locations were tortured to forced roles, and where and how that would be manifest and is manifest, where and how we are manifest syntactically, therefore functionally. See, we are quality as fact, human nature that has means to cause evolution's fruits and gifts and means out of nowhere. But by an identity of might that is that generated from being while being greater than it. All things individually grouped and together, where and how more and more of that particularly distinct identity of forever nature that is juxtaposed with all other identities of forever nature being forged through temporary slash lasting significance per its system. So we have part of the things with the shootings are people with no significance but per titles and the phenomena of their roles with criminally foreign influence readings of statutes and criminally foreign influence readings of, uses of titles, the hierarchy and the lower hierarchy in all locations with them, having been left entertained. Not one has trade. So we have to have mandated law followed. They have a bunch of ties to people involved with organized crime, involved investigations, investigators, prosecutors, their family members, judges, their family members, involved with Central Connecticut State University and Trinity College in Yukon, who also have roles next to Hartford Hospital through time with fact human nature oriented predicate acts, with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. Their roles with prostitutes and things like that, they indicated probably because they're undercover police. But these are ones involved fabricating audio and video transcripts with at locations where and how used remotely are time treatments and have been time treatments at interbranch locations. And as people have involved with uses of corners of buildings and fake exceptions real fast and stuff, other things relevant as a whole bunch of people involved with The military involved with the DeMoro family and a Mr. Abruzzi on off Central Connecticut State University recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed through time, involved with federal crimes with databases with people before and after I met him, and that are also interbranch, forging and switching names, as people involved with the World Trade Center too, involved with all kinds of sick things that they brought up. Now these are also what is recorded is that a whole bunch of people I never tried to seek out sequentially, vertically and horizontally, every once in a while, another person would make confessions into this. And then there were timed uses of that. And everyone pretended we're like peers or friends or whatever. Like we had conversations. It was why they had people just go and they don't say anything. They take pictures. In other words, so there were a whole bunch of investigators associated with Mike Roberts, who influenced him to make a fake exception pretending to know me at my neighbor's house one time. I think Eric Jensen was there. Now, they're recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with other countries and with our own, with various natures of child abuse and of business roles with businesses and medical crimes with kids and ones with badges involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, instances relative and uses of that. Their roles with UPS and with post office and Coca-Cola and other shipping places as names involved with uses of corners of my street recently relative to their roles with Joshua Julian, also with those names, involved with home break-ins, where the courts have crimes roles and police forms have crime roles, and people with the prisons with them at locations with the people getting victimized, sometimes with the people perpetrating the crimes at the same time. And they have roles stacking predicate acts, allusions into the databases, and relevant to where and to how people get. There are uses of everyone fake when they speak about who's a liar, who's that, and where and how they could be motivated to that still to get in the way of who's going to protract and speak from and use the revelation like this. One of the things they do is have people pretend, say things that are going to make someone look angry or embarrassed or happy, any of the emotions, because they're going to hide, because then they're going to measure and maintain how no one realizes what they were already involved with, which actually recorded. There are criminally recorded, consciously criminally recorded, how they put people together and put people in the same class placements, and consciously simultaneously criminally at the same time how they have people never see each other, so they could keep roles with this value, criminally foreign influenced identity, the ground uses of all locations that maintained while that was sustained. It made all that it propagated individually grouped and together, kept needing more and more for other reasons, additional, to hide its own illusions and roles with its use, timing, timed of all locations, area states. So I don't know what campuses of Tom Perone and Danielle Perone went to. I never saw them on a campus in my life. There are people with the medical community and ones with badges in courts involved with narratives with planting evidences and faked where time treatments are being used criminally too, and wire crime rules and uses of corners of streets. They have been planting evidences, including by acting so they can pretend things in the future. These are also people involved with the corners of the with the corners and along routes and intercampuses. These are there is a person that was put in my English class, and then they wanted me to go with her to the Harriet Beecher Stowe class, who's one of the people reportedly intimately tied to the John Mahano, who's one of the ones involved with people from Texas Community College and from Central Connecticut State University, involved also with people involved further then and now with child abuses, and including further with the principal child abuser proven. And he's got roles with various natures of federal evidences crimes and uses of my name with people associated with places in Newington, also associated with him at locations next to the state capitol with criminally foreign influence uses of children's databases and of little fake punks they have like associated with and as the Mayano family. They should get on paper with the interbranch associated with them and with the rest of the names involved with that street, involved with predicate acts at the campuses I went to of the youngest ages and uses of that off campuses. And with these people I never saw on a campus in my life, I don't know where they went to school, like this Robert Rodriguez. The last three times I flew a kite, two times people made confessions tied to this. He was trying to walk by me to pretend to know me, make a fake exception because they just say whatever. Because already the interbranches, the intelligence community, and the overt criminal enterprises with the same ones. They already made time criminally foreign influence identity ground uses of where I went intercity with the same names that they hit it on my street with that. So the Robert Rodriguez brought up the principal child defenders campus, and there are further people involved with that, like with the name Scalora, involved with drugs and medicines crimes, with doctors and identity thefts and frauds, stacking fake things into databases, and roles with identity thefts and frauds, with investigators used remotely, and campuses criminally involved with them. So let's get to the Scaloras involved with the confessions of this Robert Rodriguez and the rest of the people involved with that campus, with the former director of the FBI and mayors also involved, and further people with New Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts that are the ones that were at locations affecting confessions to me, that they also hid with people private tied to them and the interbranch with stacking predicate actions and databases. Whole bunch of doctors tied to these courts with the Hartford courts and the Britain courts involved attaching little kids and their families to fake ties, fake natures, to ties to people with the ones that live next to the campuses too. Involved collusion with them, leaders of the kids, sickly distinctly used as victim predators from the kids of the leaders of the campuses of all ages and natures. All the employments at the identity ground locations have relevant recorded roles with where and how there are means to observe, recorded how used remotely, criminally foreign influenced and tactically delusions wrought, investigators, how they are kept differentially not wanting to be, but increasingly having to hide, how increasingly to in every instance of treatment, name treatment, time, they have to hide things they can't afford, which actually recorded true. They're differentially criminally foreign influenced perfectly. The same by what really most furthers and uses effectively the overt criminal enterprises and private ones. You can't see that the black and white narratives treatments by the only people they allow to speak in the news is still fake and relied on by applications that have nothing to do with what they pretend when they're pretending passions and emotions. They're still forcing child offenders with the religious locations because there are applications by them attaching people to fake conversations about religion on a mass scale. For example, for how they're attaching people to fake mental diagnoses on a mass scale with real doctors too, and with made up ones mixed, and their self-valuing roles with that. You have a whole bunch of fakes that the leaders are reliant upon as our countries individually grouped in together. So Germany, there are people associated with this Justin Klavinskis and his brother, and this Joshua Stryker, that are involved with also with Afghanistan and with people from Korea, involved with some child offenders on and off Trinity College with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and some judges and prosecutors and their family members planting evidences. They also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed on and off Trinity College. It has something to do with them doing the same thing on and off Two Rod Highway, and how that has roles with them on and off Elm Streets and Rocky Hill. Don't forget. So please, so someone get them onto paper. They have a whole bunch of ties to their roles with narratives regarding distinct identities of overt criminal enterprises, where they have journalists and journalism and CCSU names and roles along Franklin Avenue in Hartford, and on and off legal cases where they have roles with predicate acts together, where and how relevant is where and how they've had roles with investigators, and other that haven't been used, criminally foreign influenced, delusions raw. They have names associated with uses of sides of parks, where men and women associated with the ILO family have been fabricated, have roles with various natures of federal crimes, with kids, with child offenders, people on the child sex offender registry, also involved with him saying, with their roles with uses of the Facebook for other passions, emotions, pretending passions and emotions to hide their roles with sequence shifts, various natures of federal crimes, with people associated with them pretending others are doing the same thing. All exceptions, exception nature too. They use criminally foreign influence too, and tactically delusions raw, and it has something to do with their roles with spots on both sides of Trinity College, and with the guy that we drove up to New York City, and when I saw Mike Tyson one time at Church Street, I didn't get to talk to him because I started a joke with him. I was going to joke with him, but then I realized simultaneously, and it was there was fear there too, because it was part of what it was. I did when he wouldn't react. No, no, you don't go like that to Mike Tyson. In other words, it was nothing big, but I'm just saying they would proof that he was going to get me back for it. Part of it was a whole bunch of things mixed when I did that, but that was the people involved with recorded uses of them, involved with that people that I never saw on a campus in my life. They made a fake exception after he graduated with a Joe Iola and with his sister and her boyfriend at the time. They made it fake. In other words, they had two times they had girls that pretended they had others make me go on a date, make it set up a date. And I didn't say anything. I'm not going to make it. The way they say it, you will make it like you insult them, or you don't know, you didn't realize. You know what I mean? So you don't say anything. They were planting evidences. People went out they were stacking things with court from other classrooms, names with interbranch family members, people associated with a police chief Cintron 1 years ago, involved with names on my street, involved with judges and prosecutors and doctors associated with them, with their patients and criminals, involved with federal crimes on my street, involved with violence, more names involved. Further, with them forging and switching names, preventing writing since I was a kid, lying about their motivations and what came first, and the validity of it every time. Yeah, they attach people to fake passions and I don't know, in other words, fake behavior, aggression, and fake why they don't respond. As a torture method that was before they had to effectively use the World Trade Center attack to legalize torture criminally. No, and uses of that were therefore too. Increasingly, that makes already backed up systems. We have individuals only capable. They already have more predicate acts, methods, and acts, uses as individuals than there are streets in our cities. Forgiveness is because there's way worse that uses them and that remotely. So there's a Perone family, and there's a Violet family. There are Violet families that have roles with people from Yukon that took a picture of me in a park to pretend I know they know me. Also with Justa Klavinskis, involved with people on I don't know what grammar schools they went to, but they were involved with people from my grammar school that had live progressions years later. So they're taking pictures out of sequence and things like that. And they're involved with the corner of Town Line Drive and Southstein Highway in layers with the people involved. So they need to pretend our side had no roles with this. And it's all because how they have a whole bunch of different countries involved with the same methods and timed uses of themselves with the same names and confessions. This is how I figured this out. Like the guy who sought me out, I don't know, even know he sought me out through per Joe Zamora, a guy and a whole bunch of people at a Taekwondo place. They used to be where across from where the Weathersfield Police Department is now. There's a Schumack family also involved with fabricating evidences, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and with people with some KKK themed, Jewish themed, and Catholic and other Christian themed, natures of roles with that. With fact cheap nature oriented racketeering, identity racketeering, where people are reporting what the news says. This Joshua Julian also has roles with syntax and confessions on Facebook, also demonstrated on Facebook before recent home break ins. And as people involved with ones in the area years ago, and with that corner involved with it, they said it was recorded by the police, and it was other ways anyway recorded. See, but the police have been hiding that. The police forums. I don't know if that was, there was if that was, there were people with New Haven FBI that have roles with other agencies with the names next to the campuses. In Weathersfield, it looked like it might have been now. Does anyone know? Please spot a family. Get the Weathersfield police on paper because they have. So I don't have to describe your mother, Sandra Spada, Antonetta Spada, and Joe Spada. We never met. Please, they have your Facebook page involved with this, and they have more upskirt natures involved with the principal involved with that, and way worse before that, during it, and since. Also, some untimely deaths brought it up. There's a Scalora family and other people that pretend to know me in confessions by a whole bunch of people from Trinity College and CCSU tied to Charlie Bowes. That Chris Walters and a Ray Cole also confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with them with forced, tricked, or persuaded since they were kids to federal crimes with evidences with people involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, doctors associated with judges and prosecutors involved with abuses of them and other people that they don't even know they're attaching the fake ties to themselves and to their doctors and the doctors of the kids around the other kids. They're little predators. And with a whole bunch of people at Quinnipiac University, please respond for this Harris family has been planting, acting so other people can pretend emotions. Pretend to be perceiving things legitimately at locations being used remotely. So there's a Harris family involved with people on the child offender registry, and it was implied and demonstrated that him coming out of a school with me one time was what was criminally to make it look like he knew me through criminal form through his roles for people that forced and with this were forced to speak through others. Demonstrated, recorded, confessed, confirmed him involved with judges and prosecutors and with the medical community, with identity thefts and frauds with them that are also increasingly at campuses I went to, where these are roles stacking predicate acts, allusions into databases, criminally foreign influence uses of the syntactical time treatments, of the results of it, of the relativity of it, like with testing. You don't leave out how the criminal enterprises have been used consciously timed with the interbranch family members from the relativity talk, what goes right or wrong when they have national testing. Get down. You should fear God to hide and plot. I rap a lot, so they have to block my platform, block me and others. So they're offensive. They know what they have to do is preemptively, right through the sale of the FBI has recorded conscious criminally foreign influence uses, sickly distinctly from the other branches of the government of how they have, like on Twitter, if you want to complain because WFSB blocked me. They're involved with wire crimes with their phones. They attach me to fake conversations with their investigations, and with their journalists. They've been attaching little kids to fake ties to others and fake natures of ties to others, and fake conversations with themselves and with the other people around them. And they've been using that as evidences in cases where they have predicate acts, methods, roles that are effectively used to better than perfectly use criminally foreign influence, all formal and informal fact treatment nature styles, narratives, and natures. Yeah. So they want to bring up how the police beat people. It's tied to their roles with the courts and the prisons that have been needing to hide life progressions with themselves too. There are more people involved with a subby Bajaria on off the spots next to Central Connecticut State University too, who has their family involved with the intelligence community, people associated with them on off the community center too, and off the campuses further involved with various natures of identity theft, fraud, slander through time, and in the background applications, uses of their kids, where and how I have to use their names now too because they don't put anything on paper. They're pretending things about passion, about wanting privacy, also where the FBI is involved with these wire crime acts and methods recorded in themselves, recorded to an extent, understanding this. Fear! And with the Weathersfield police, there are Mendez police. There are a whole bunch of police from forms and interbranch from Weathersfield on and off Central Connecticut State University, leading before the World Trade Center attack in that context and since involved with co-defendants, a former director of the FBI in a 2006 district court case or part of a case in a 2000 and that was ongoing at the time of my father's death too. And people involved with that, like these Mendez police, with a Thaddeus Grabowski and their uses of themselves, their uses and other people's uses of themselves at spots next to the Fox Connecticut News. Also has their roles with names at spots next to WFSB that has intelligence community involved with the wire crime acts and methods with the judges and prosecutors with WFSB that have been planting evidences, including sexual evidences, with their roles with criminally foreign influence sites with uses of kids and themselves and with people like themselves and with themselves that pretend to be against things that they had collusions with at other locations too, at crime scenes, increasingly as collusions at their own too. So that's also associated with the name of a cop I don't know the name of. He pulled me over at the corner and had me go into Britain Superior Court one time at the corner of Hangdog Lane and Route 3. These are also people involved with all the different countries, involved with various natures of abuses of kids at the same time and pretending to be against those things. How they use crime methods. They have Trantol and Trantol recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles to an extent, not realizing because they have delusions that are tactical, other and motivations that are other than their actual ones there, where they have roles recorded with courts that fabricate police reports and have roles with crime scenes, so using everyone brought before their locations where they could hide roles with uses of all locations already having been criminally foreign influenced, uses of their own names and of other people's names having been criminally foreign influenced, timed roles also with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the witness protection program also involved with this witness, also involved with timed uses of a Joshua Stryker and people on off Trinity College and CCSU involved with predicate acts with deans on and off campuses, with principals and their kids, and intercities through time. In other words, prepare your mind, each mind. And so they are incapable of handling treatments of anything serious like murder and like proper response to it. They left out the roles with predicate X methods they have recorded with their worst patients and criminals and names timed, and that were timed uses of the names of that through time. That was same ones that were next to those body dumping spots at the time, not by accident. Fear God to hide and plot. Get them on paper into Branch, Connecticut, fast, in between the campuses, because this is a method that is playing games, pretending passions and emotions about their kids with serious subjects, and so they can pretend what serious is. Get down.